Screw it, I'm gonna try to make a lightsaber. The lightsaber is iconic. It is elegant, and it is absolutely dangerous. But today I'm talking about how it's a physics problem which turns into an engineering nightmare. Today, I'm not just debunking lightsabers, regardless of how fun that would be. I'm also gonna take on the challenge of redesigning it. I'm gonna go over some of its physics limitations in the film, such as containment and thermal radiation, and then I'm gonna try to find a way for real physics to solve those problems and so we can engineer a proper solution. Because who doesn't want a lightsaber in our world, right? And no, I promise not to use a cop-out of force magic, but I need to answer 3 questions before we get to a working prototype. 1, what is a lightsaber? 2, what are the issues with a lightsaber today? And 3, how the heck do I actually build one? So let's get into it. We all know what a lightsaber is. It's the trademark glowing hot plasma sword that cuts through everything and looks absolutely badass. And on top of that, it's got the perfect swoosh sound effect every time you swing it. Well, the lore says it's made of superheated coherent plasma, which is around 10,000 degrees Celsius, which is hotter than the surface of the sun. But before we get into that problem, our first problem is one of length. Why does the blade stop exactly 1 meter after the hilt? In a regular sword, it's simple. Cut the metal and forge it however length you want it to be. But when it comes to plasma, we get into some other problems. Well, Newton's first law states, any object in motion will remain in motion, and any object at rest will remain at rest unless acted on by some outside force. Plasma, in this case, is 100% moving, no matter where we are along the blade. So we need something to confine that energy. So all I need is some sort of energy field that loops back on itself so that the energy is contained. Easy. I've studied this part. Wait. Oh. Oh. I've spent all day trying to find a solution, and it turns out electrodynamics just isn't there yet. So we're gonna have to find some other solution. I spent all day yesterday trying to find some sort of containment field for essentially a mini sun, and it turns out it's impossible with today's science. But think about General Grievous. He's got 4 arms holding 4 separate lightsabers, which is essentially 4 mini suns, and you're trying to contain all of that energy in a battery the size of his hand? It just won't happen with today's science. Hey, hold on. I know I said I wouldn't jump to the force fixes everything, but let's just say that kyber crystals are a fine solution this time around. And even if we say kyber crystals are our solution and only force wielders can use this containment field, we immediately run into our second problem. This is the lethal failure that should kill every single Jedi. Heat. Look, the plasma is over 10,000 degrees Celsius, which isn't just hot, but if we look at the Stefan-Boltzmann equation, it gets a lot worse for every Jedi holding a lightsaber. In statistical mechanics, we say that heat almost always travels from hot to cold things. And the more the temperature difference between 2 things that are in contact are, the faster you're gonna get some heat dispersion between those 2 things. So if our saber here is 10,000 degrees Celsius and a regular person's hand is say 25 degrees Celsius on a warm day, with that temperature difference, I'm in for a real treat. By that, I mean cooked Jedi skin. If you like it crispy, that'll be $2 extra. And for Luke holding a lightsaber like this, not only is he gonna be blind and deaf just from the heat dispersion from the blade so close to his face, but he's also gonna cook both of his hands. That metal hilt would instantly become an oven. At this temperature, I'm gonna need some major gloves and eye protection to even hold the lightsaber. And the worst part is, I have to solve the containment and the thermal problem simultaneously. Okay, I think that's enough of the failed physics experiment. Let's get into building an actual lightsaber that could work on real life physics. I'll call it the Kartik Saber. First, the plasma. I'm sticking with plasma. It is absolutely the most badass way to attack anyone ever. But I'm ditching the imaginary force field that keeps it at exactly 1 meter. Instead, I'm replacing that with a powerful magnetic field generator, which is more or less going to turn the blade into a loop so that the energy is contained, and we keep our length of about 1 meter. Well, if we replace this little lightsaber with the Kartik Saber, this hilt here is going to be replaced with a giant magnetic field generator. So it's not quite gonna look as elegant. And it's not really a blade anymore, it's more of a net of doom. Our next issue is the power source. I can't exactly hold both a giant magnetic field generator and the battery sustaining the beam in one place like this. It's gonna need a much larger size. So I'm saying we go with a giant backpack mounted power supply. I think a fusion reactor or something similar that is highly efficient should do the trick. If we wire a cable that runs down my arm to the saber, it makes sure that I can still swing the sword around without too much hassle. But we just made the elegant lightsaber more or less a bulky and tethered device. But at least we don't have to charge it into the wall, right? Next, we have to solve the thermal problem. For this, I say we put in a bunch of thermal radiators to deal with all the heat. The hilt would need a complex system of liquid cooling and heat fins, just so that I can hold it and the heat doesn't go straight to my hands. Now, the hilt is extremely complicated. It's really heavy and it's prone to a lot of mechanical failure. Not only that, but more importantly, the system is generating a lot of noise. The quiet, once elegant saber is now a loud, giant hunk of metal that is hissing and venting heat all the time. And beyond that, it's such an easy target because of how large it is. So the lightsaber works, but the real lightsaber is a backpack mounted design with a super efficient nuclear reactor in your bag that still hisses at you, has a blinding light at the front of it, isn't a blade anymore and is more of a loop. And it's so heavy that I'd need serious gym gains just to be able to swing it around and carry this massive bag on my back. So, plan accomplished, I'd say. I think that is a win for humanity, for starters.